3, 2, 1, boom. And we're live. Well, welcome to the inaugural episode of the Bucket List Podcast. Just to introduce ourselves for first times, I'm Deceased Pixel, and we have our producer, LS Dreams, our guest host for today, Two Stroke Diesel. And for our guest, I'd like to introduce you to Pastor Bill Willenbrock, A.K.A. PastorBrock, as he's known on VR Chat.
Right.
Willenbrock is a graduate of Concordia Theological Seminary and is now a pastor at the Faith Lutheran Church of Whitehall. And lastly, he's a good friend of mine. Welcome to the podcast, Pastor. How are you doing?
Honored to be here. You know, I have to tell you, though, before we get started, you're late. You're late to your own podcast by about 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 months. You know, this is long overdue, my friend. It's a pleasure to be here on your inaugural episode. I think you're a exceedingly fascinating person to listen to, and I know your viewers will find the same.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, for my first question, I just want to ask you, why did you want to become a pastor? What brought you to this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, it was 2008, and I was a history major in college, and the job prospects for a history major. I wasn't like a history major with like an educational certificate. I was just a history major. And so, I was like, what am I going to do after college? And so I started going to this Bible study. It was called Greek InterVarsity. It was kind of a Bible study for members of fraternities and sororities. And the main reason I went is because there was like a chick that was super interested in, and so I went there. Not my wife, so I'm glad it didn't turn out. But,
yeah.
But I went there to basically, meet up with her, and just fell in love. Because the first time as an adult that I was really reading the scriptures, and just found it exceedingly fascinating, to get in touch with these ancient, and of course, as a Christian, I would say these divine narratives. And so it was just different. I felt forced to get into the scriptures as a young man, and then now in college of my own volition, just found it very fascinating. And so
yeah,
and that's why I became a pastor. Yeah. So VR pastor, though, that's another question.
Yeah. So how do your fellow peers at the church feel about your presence on VR Chat? Like, do they even know?
They do know. And in fact, there was a World magazine article. World is like a...
Yeah, I read that article.
Did you really? Yeah. So yeah, like they're my church has been very excited. I haven't heard anybody complain, but I think if they did complain, maybe they'd keep it to themselves out of Christian love and kindness. But I've heard absolutely nothing. I've heard absolutely nothing negative. My leadership has been exceedingly supportive. They're just thrilled that we're, reaching, if not their specific grandkids and kids, just our nation's grandkids and kids in a new way. So yeah, they're thrilled.
Yeah, you've actually been called the Billy Graham of VR Chat by a fellow pastor, DJ Soto.
Man.
How do you feel about an appointed title
rich.
like that?
Well, I guess it's a big fish in a very small pond. Well, considering there are three of us, I think I'm only aware of three pastors and maybe only two in VR Chat really for, in any length of time. So maybe that's like, so if one of us has to be the Billy Graham of VR Chat, I guess by default,
you'll take that title.
Yeah, that's right. I was exceedingly honored to hear DJ say that. DJ's a good friend, and that was very encouraging to hear him say that. But I would argue not maybe well deserved, but yeah.
Now, is DJ the one that was featured on Sir Moore's channel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. So DJ's been in this game. He's the OG, right? He's been doing this since like, I want to say 2016, something like that.
So very early on.
Yeah. So he even before VR Chat, as I understand it, he was doing something in alt space before. I'm not entirely sure on the timeline. I could be wrong, but I know he's been in it at least like I want to say 2 years before I was, or a year and a half before I was.
It's funny, we say 2016, like so long ago, but in VR time,
right.
in online time, it's so
That's
much
huge.
different. The development of technology is so much different. I mean, 2016 was what? The CV1 Rift?
Yes.
I think.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
God, that thing
it's
had so
amazing
many issues.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you constantly get asked like why you hang out in VR chat, and you respond pretty typically with Jesus hung out with prostitutes, so I get to hang out with you degenerates.
Yes, that's right. That's right. That's my tagline.
But
That's my. I should make some merch with that on.
you should. You should. I would buy that merch. But the thing is I think VR chat is the perfect place for a pastor, because you found a group of people who are what you would call most distant from God, I think, and you're bringing them back, like, which is your job. So it only makes sense for you to be here.
Yeah, I'm myself the most distant from God, though. I'm reminded of the Apostle Paul's words. He says, this is a trustworthy saying that deserves full acceptance. Christ came into the world to save sinners, of whom I am the worst. So Paul counted himself the worst sinner. And so, like one thing that I think a lot of people would say, oh, you're going in there for the heathens of VR. I really don't. I try not to take that, like, that tact. I really see myself as the worst sinner, or I try to. It's not true. I don't always exceed in this regard, but I do try to see myself as the worst sinner in any space that I enter, any instance or room that I enter. So, but yeah, no, I always tell people that if you had Knuckles controllers, if you had like a coupon code on Amazon for Knuckles controllers for $25, you'd tell everybody, even like the jerk that you don't even like in VR chat, you'd tell them just by virtue of how good the news is. And I've got news that I feel is just been tremendously helpful and meaning filled for my life, and just by virtue of how good it is, I want to share with people it. So yeah.
How many people do you talk to on a day, if you think you could count that?
Yeah, so like honest, like let's say like if I'm on VR chat for like 3 hours or something like that, like that's like usually about how long I come on VR chat to talk to people. I've not been doing as much lately. But when I do it, I probably talk to, I don't know, somewhere between 20 and 40 people. So probably some, maybe more than that, but yeah, that'd be a conservative estimate, 20 to 40 people. Yeah.
And your main home is the Black Cat, from what I've seen.
That's right.
Every time I
I
join on you, it's always the
That's
Black
my home.
Cat.
Yeah. And so I'm not exclusively in there, but that, a Spooky Ghost Boo, a dear friend of mine, she's been awesome. She was, she's been so welcoming. And so, yeah, that's just been my home, originally because I had a potato computer that like couldn't handle the pug. I tried going into pug, but like, it was like poor meltdown. And so like, I was like, all right, I got to find some place that's a little bit better optimized. And so, yeah, Black Cat became my home. So
yeah, we got a picture up in the Black Cat now of all the buckets.
That's right.
People with the buckets on their heads. So
that's right.
We've made our mark in there, and you've
There
definitely
you
made your mark
it.
in there. You're a celebrity in there.
I don't know about that, but you're kind. Thank you.
Oh no, for sure. I mean, every time I bring up a pastor in VR, you're probably the first name that people think of. Even though DJ Soto was kind of the first one, you've really developed a following in VR chat, especially because you stream on Twitch, right?
I do. Yeah, that's been a more recent change, just since June. But yeah, I do.
Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I love it. And, I think one of the things that, DJ's got like 50 different irons in the fire, right? Like he's like managing like this massive, community. He's just launched MMO church. And so he's like he's got like 50 irons in the fire. Whereas like basically like VR chat is like my thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, like I spend not just like doing church services in VR, but also, just talking to people. And that's where, just because, I maybe have a little bit of a narrow focus, and DJ, is really calls himself, I mean, he's a bishop in his community. And so that, I think that really expresses how kind of more forest level than tree level, he is. So yeah. So this is what I love to do though. I love to talk to people about, especially the meaning of life. Like I've probably asked like 2,000 people.
It's the first question you ask, right? I've come to see that's the first question you ask. It really opens up what people are thinking about. You kind of get a good look into their mind, because usually you just ask them how they're doing. They're going to say fine, and that's what they'll carry on with. But if you have to give them a question where they're going to think, especially if that's your goal is to pull information from them and kind of learn about them, then that's probably the better question to open with, is something that may be seen as a bit more uncomfortable. I've
tried so many different questions. I'm embarrassed. The first question that The first question that I asked people when I came into VR chat, does anybody want to talk philosophy? Oh my goodness. What a stupid question. Because like, that's like, first of all, like most people aren't philosophers. They don't identify as philosophers. And that's like a super, that's a very scary question to try to enter into, because nobody wants to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, if you add like, what's your opinion on the recent Mars landing? Like, I'm like, okay, I know they were successful. That's about it. Right. Like, and so, but I think it's the same question. It's precisely the same question. Like, do you want to talk philosophy? What is the meaning of life? That's a question we all have to answer every time we enter, get out of bed. So I think that's and we all, we're compelled to. We have no choice but to give answer to that question.
So you think we're all philosophers in our own way?
Yeah, absolutely. Philosophy comes from the Greek philosophia, which means philos means love, and sophia means wisdom. So the love of wisdom. I think we all love wisdom in some regard, whether it's like all the Pokemon, right, or like the number of I don't know. I mean, different iterations of furry avatars. I don't know. We all love wisdom in some area of our life.
Yeah. Well, the next question I have is kind of regarding the behavior. Do you think that VR chat is a place that like perpetrates kind of, as you call, degenerate behavior? Like, or is that just a consequence of being online in general?
Yeah. Well, by the way, just to clarify, the degenerate, I'm not like,
yeah, it's
that's totally in jest. I'm not like, actually, these degenerates here on VR chat, they're always doing ERP and stuff. Yeah, no. So I actually find my Facebook page to be more toxic than VR chat.
Really?
Right? I do. And I think there's something to be said about the sense that you're actually with this person. Like there's a sense that you and I are in the same room now. And that demands a certain level of courtesy. When someone's just a name behind a Reddit post or a Facebook post, I think there's a dehumanization that can't be done.
It's like road rage almost, to where you don't really see the other person. It's just
right.
That's another car that got in my way, and now I'm going to make their life miserable because they cut in front of me in traffic. And I think that's the same mentality for something something online, especially with boards like 4chan, where you have just all of these people who are completely anonymous, and the entire point of a message board really is to be social. So whenever you take away that social aspect, and you may have a good conversation on 4chan, but as soon as that thread ends, you'll never speak to that person again. You may never know unless they identify themselves, unless you add them outside of the platform. You're never going to speak to that person. And I think it really just brews a sense of hatred between people. But I haven't really found that exact same mindset on VR chat.
And this is why I think VR chat is here to stay. I think there are a lot of problems, with security and other things. But the one thing you cannot, have synthetically, is community. And I think there is a real sense of community. Like if you go, I know they're early on. Well, I don't know. Did I sign an NDA for Facebook Horizons? I don't think I did. I was just giving a beta key. So
who knows?
Well, here we go. Let's have Facebook sue me. I would say, that you go to a place like Facebook Horizons, and it's just a ghost town. There's no, I don't think there's much community. And the same thing with like something like Altspace. Like I think Altspace is wonderful. Like I would almost rather, in terms of like meetings as a church, oh my goodness, Altspace would be 10 times better than, because you can, the way, just the control you have over it, right? Because, somebody can, I know the devs are working on it, but there's a lot of, crashing and stuff like that can happen VR chat just by the nature of the beast of having that, creativity and custom avatars. But, the one thing that you can't find is community. I think that's the one thing VR chat has in spades.
Yeah, VR chat has definitely developed, and I think it's mostly due to the fact that there's so much user content and the fact that it's based off of Unity. You have all of these people that are able to create their own worlds. They can create their own avatars. They can customize things to just about any level that they would want to. and they can
Exactly.
idealize themselves as something and say, you know, look, I made this. These are things that I created, the worlds I created, and
like making the statue of David turn on a turntable
yeah.
in the corner.
Well,
I mean,
that's Helios.
oh, is it Helios? Never
Yeah,
mind.
I don't know
Forgive
if
me.
you can
Forgive
see
me.
it in the camera.
Just the head up. You know, he looked like a little bit of a yarmulke in the back, but I see that's just a headband now.
Yeah, that's
So
it's the
it's Helios,
statue that's notoriously
the
featured
Greek god of the sun.
on a vaporwave album cover. So
Oh, is that right? Okay.
yeah.
Well, there we go. See, and there's the subculture right there, right? The culture
yeah.
of memes, the culture of little Easter eggs. You know, that's the other thing. Like for someone watching that's familiar with that cover, right? They're gonna, oh, I get it, and that beauty of memes and Easter eggs. I think that's another reason why I find the scriptures exceedingly beautiful. Is there's all of these Easter eggs kind of hidden throughout. So.
And I think memes, if we're going to memes, it can be considered like a universal language almost, because there's a lot of memes where you can break them down to very simple elements and they still retain their humor. Just like
language.
Yeah, just like music. So it's really interesting.
Going to turn into like how Egyptians just use hieroglyphs. Do you think we're just gonna go full circle?
Oh, yeah. I think I it's interesting because I mean you just look at the condensing of the English language. I think I don't know how much more condensed you can get.
Look at emojis, man.
There you go. That's excellent. Yeah, that's excellent.
You everything with just an eggplant. So
yeah, and then you don't use up as many Twitter characters. So I mean that's the way to go.
When did they extend the Twitter? Because it used to be 140 and now it's 280. I wonder.
I am such a noob. I am such a noob when it comes to Twitter. Like I think I've got like 15 followers on Twitter. That's not my main platform. For me, Discord was the first platform I got on, and but I don't know. I was never really into Twitter before. Like I was always a Facebook guy. That's like the boomer social media thing right now. But
you know what's funny? Bringing up Twitter, have you ever thought about how, like, there's been a lot of footage, and I don't know, Dreams, you could pull that up. It's like some footage of people like playing in the snow back in the early 1900s, but the frame rate is increased so it looks like normal. Right, and it's very uncanny because it feels very real. But the thing is that like you have things like that where you can very obviously tell the sign of the times, right? Black and white, choppy frame rate. But with Twitter, everything is made to look new, right? So you have a tweet from 2011, but it looks like it was posted yesterday. The only thing that's changing that is the date. You have these things that are very, very just antiquated, but oh, is that
I think that looks like
here? It. You got it on the Discord stream.
Yeah.
Let me turn that to it.
Oh wow, yeah, look at that. That's crazy. That's wild, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah, I'm just gonna mute in case YouTube's got like.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, and they colorized it too, dude.
Yeah.
But see, it just feels so uncanny. It's very,
it
very weird.
Yeah. Very true.
Anyways, don't mean to go off on a tangent. I want to go back to what I was originally talking about in terms of perpetrating like degenerate behavior. Kind of to coincide with that, the whole male and female avatar thing, which I know I'm kind of biased in this situation.
Sure.
But the age-old saying is, if I'm going to stare at a character, I'd rather stare at a cute character than a male character. But do you think that there's anything more to that? In terms of VR chat specifically, in the fact that you can kind of idealize yourself as these avatars and really mask yourself as them. And even, like you have the people who are quote unquote mute, who just run around and don't talk so they can try and fully immerse themselves in what they look like.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, and I think it definitely does, connect to issues about gender expression and stuff like these, and these are obviously contentious issues. But so yeah, I mean, I don't know, I don't know because it doesn't. I just feel ignorant. I don't know if I really can say too much about it. One thing that so I haven't really asked a lot about it. Like I haven't like that's not a question that usually I ask about. I mean, I think it would be an interesting question to ask. It'd be interesting to ask. But like one thing that we try to do, especially in like Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon and evening services here in VR Chat, is like come as you are. Even if you have a slightly provocative avatar, maybe I'll block it on my end because I jokingly say the only boobs I want to see are my wife's, and so sometimes I'll what I like to say is I crash dummyify you if I find your avatar slightly scandalous, but I'm not going to say this is a church, get out of here, like I'm not, I think there's this great quote by this there's this old pastor and this young pastor, and they were talking to these two young women who were in like these scandalously short mini skirts, and the young pastor said to the old pastor, aren't you going to scold them for wearing those mini skirts? And the old pastor says, if I can show them the beauty of Jesus, they'll change their own attire. And like I think like that's what I'm trying to do in VR Chat is like I don't think we need, I don't go railing against anybody. Like I go railing against myself. I mean, and hopefully people can see the insight that we all need grace and redemption, and we need God's forgiveness. But like I don't think we need to rail against people, and so that's why, that's why we have kind of a come as you are kind of take. And so I'd probably plead the fifth on this one just out of ignorance. It's a great question though. It's a great question.
Yeah, I gotcha. What about, and again, I'm kind of biased towards this, as I've been playing a lot of it recently, but what about like VR gambling, like VR poker and things? Is that in terms, I don't know how gambling is portrayed in the Bible, if it is at all, but I know for a fact that the love of money is portrayed. So if that kind of coincides with that.
Yeah. So I was thinking about getting, there's what's that? What's there? The VR poker game that looks like a lot of fun.
Like VR, it is a lot of fun. I've been playing a lot of it recently.
It looks like a lot of fun. I don't. But did you actually play for money, or is it just
you go in and you spin this wheel, and you get to spin it every 8 hours, and it gives you a random amount between like $5,000 and $250,000, and that's what you get to play with. And you can go to like different tables based on the amount that you're wanting to bet.
Gotcha.
But it's funny because people definitely do not play the same with virtual money. However, you can purchase the money. It's like you can technically purchase $1 million worth of coins and then go bet it all and lose it all. So there is a gambling aspect to it.
Yeah, I was gonna make a joke about they're giving away moderately sized suburban houses on this game, $250,000. But yeah, you had to like clarify that it's in game currency. You spoiled my joke. I'm greatly annoyed. So obviously like you nailed it. Like you nailed it. So the issue is about the love of money, and I think gambling is I've seen it ruin so many people's lives, and like, so I think just I think you can know an activity by the fruit that it produces. I don't know of any explicit prohibitions of gambling in the scriptures, but I just seeing, there's not any explicit passages about felony home invasion either. But I think we can defer that something is, if it's harmful, I think we do have some insight there. But I love playing poker. Like I love playing poker with friends and stuff like that. So I mean, if you're doing it for like $5-10, if the winner wants to take home $25 or something like that, I don't see that as intrinsically sinful. But I think it's something you need to know. Oh yeah.
Funny thing, on my last hand just playing there in poker, I won on triple sixes. and I knew I was coming onto this podcast to do a podcast with a pastor.
Yeah.
And
Triple
I was
sixes.
like,
That's right.
"Should
Yeah,
I
yeah,
fold? Should I fold?
Yeah.
Is God telling me a sign?
No,
and not
no.
let
You
me
can
dance?"
you play those triple sixes. You know what's funny? One time I went
I won a lot of
into.
money on that.
Well, that's okay. Digital money, right? Digital currency. Yeah. I went to a McDonald's once, and my wife and I ordered like a couple cheeseburgers and a drink or something like that, and it came up to $6.66, and the attendant was like, "Oh," I think it's like freaking out, like, "Oh, I'm giving you the cheeseburger for free." That's literally what he said. "I'm giving you the cheeseburger for free," and and I was like, actually, I'm a pastor. It's really okay. Like, so yeah, I don't think I think that's in my estimation a little bit. I think we can be a little overly superstitious about those things.
Do we still have that rule where you can't? Well, I don't know if it's a rule. It was just a superstition that a lot of buildings back then would remove the 13th floor. It would go straight from 12 to 14. Do they still do that?
I don't know. I think so. I think it wouldn't surprise me.
Japan, they do. I thought it was a different number in Japan. I thought in America,
the fourth floor. They don't have fourth floor in the hospital because 4 is shin, which is death.
Okay.
You don't want the death floor in a hospital.
Yes, your loved one's going to be on the death floor this afternoon. We're hoping for the best. We're really pulling for him, but you never can tell. Yeah, I can understand how that would be. To be honest, I must confess my ignorance on the 13 symbolism there too. I'm not entirely sure about the history behind that. But yeah, of course, the generic 13 unlucky. But I'm saying, as far as the history of that, I must confess my ignorance. I don't know. I don't think it's of biblical origin. I can't think of anything. Like there were 13 apostles, right? So there were originally 12, and then Judas betrayed Jesus, right? That goes down to 11. Judas was replaced with Matthias, and then Paul gets added on as the quote apostle to the Gentiles. So you have 13 apostles. So I can't think of any other 13s in the scriptures that would be like ominous. So yeah, I don't think it's of Christian origin.
There's a lot of things that I've never realized are of biblical or Christian origin. The word goodbye means God be with you, and it was something they would say after you leave the city walls and off to wherever you're going.
Adios, right? I love adios comes from ba con Dios, which means go with God. So yeah, they're
really?
all yeah. So adios is a contraction of ba con Dios.
And that's another thing, like Godspeed, like the word Godspeed is derived from the fact, like goodbye, but at very high speeds, that is a very large cause of death is extremely high speed. So
that's right.
I think it was popularized after John Glenn.
Godspeed, John Glenn.
I remember. I can't.
Neil deGrasse Tyson talked about how even though he's an atheist, he uses Godspeed out of just a sense of history.
I listened to that, and where he was talking about AD versus CE.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that too. But he explained it very well. The Gregorian calendar and how we use that now. I think trying to de-religify, or however you would call it, certain terms like that is kind of ridiculous. Whenever they worked so hard to get it there. You shouldn't undermine the work of certain people.
I much more welcome Neil deGrasse Tyson's kind of brand of atheism versus many others. He seems,
I think you could call that agnosticism.
Courteous.
I think that's what that would more.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, most atheists, if you press them on it, they'll. I have a family member who's an atheist, and he talks about how there's the spectrum. I don't know how he phrased it. There's the spectrum of belief, and then there's the spectrum. One is a question of epistemology, and the other one is a question of something else. And basically, he talks about how we're all technically agnostics, right? Because we don't know, right? He's talking about those in the atheist community, but if we were betting men, we would bet that there was no God, and therefore we're atheists epistemologically, but we're all agnostics. Or I understand he puts those into two different camps. So yeah, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson usually calls himself an agnostic, but he's functionally an atheist. So sometimes I think it's a distinction without a difference.
Have you totally off topic? Have you seen biblically accurate angels? Are you aware of that? How they just kind of dissecting how you pull that up?
Yeah, you pull it up. There's this great video.
Anna?
There's this great video by Lutheran satire.
Mhm.
And it talks about pop art angels versus biblical angels.
Yeah.
And it's a play, and it's like Charlie Angel, da 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 da, right? And like pop art angel, it's like this little baby with like a big voluptuous butt and angels, and they're like, oh, and right, like real angels, it's like, wah, right?
Yeah, go
like
ahead and look at
the
Dreams
initial
stream.
oh,
But yeah, the like flaming wheels with the eyes on them.
Yeah.
Is kind of
So-
how they were described.
oh yeah, I
there's
see now.
3 types, and the Orifim.
Yeah, that was what was that? Like the highest one in the hierarchy. You had
Yeah,
like the
they
cherubs at the
guard-
beginning.
They
Yeah,
guard
so
their
s-
throne of God.
Yeah, so seraphim literally means burning ones in Hebrew. So the idea is that they're like right in the hot center of the divine presence, right? They're closest to the forge, you might say, and they glow with kind of the divine light. So I don't know about this one so much. Usually, like type in icon of angel, ICON of angel. This is how the seraphim are traditionally depicted. Oh man, they're doing like a pop icon. Oh yeah, the one right there. Yes, because
Yeah, I
they're
know which
depicted
one
as
we're talking about.
6 wings, right? And so
They hide their legs and their face.
yes, and this is actually
yeah.
there's actually really a beauty to the image of the seraphim when you juxtapose them to one particular story in the New Testament. So they cover their face with two wings, right? Basically, as because God is so holy, right? And then with 2 they fly, but then with 2 they cover their feet, right? And because your feet, your like funky nasty feet, like I remember my sister. She hates feet, and so I'd always torment her as a young boy, like sticking my feet. I'd be like, Katie, check out my feet, and so like feet are like grody, like earthly, but these seraphim have to cover their feet even though they've never touched earth. But then when you juxtapose this story with Jesus on Maundy Thursday when he washes the disciples' feet, right? Like there's a new beauty when you juxtapose it with the image of the seraphim, right? Because the one who is so holy that these angels have to cover their feet, he, out of love for humanity, is willing to come down and wash our funky manure laden feet. There's and see, like that's what I'm talking about with like memes and like Easter eggs, like it all the narrative. I mean, like you get people that like geek out about like Star Wars and hearing Ahsoka Tano's voice in episode 9, like if you get that kind of thing, seeing Easter eggs in narratives, like maybe take another look at the Bible, because there actually is like so much beauty and ancient beauty in that regard. So
I just realized I had the stream minimized on Discord. So if you could show the Orifim one more time, just while it's
What's
maximized.
the one with all the heads?
Oh, the one where it's like the multiple heads on each side. It has like 4 heads.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that I can definitely see why they say
this looks
Be-
like the Cthulhu, or
be not
the flying
afraid.
spaghetti. This looks like the flying spaghetti monster, the Pastafarians.
I can see why they would say be not afraid now.
Be not afraid. No, that's true. That's true. Like that's initially the response is be not afraid, right?
I would definitely be afraid if I saw that. I'll just say that.
Yeah, no doubt. Me too, man. You and me both. Oh, look at that. That's
Yeah, I'm gonna play that actually.
yeah, sure. Interesting. Looks like a little like atomic symbol or something like that. Looks like little electrons in orbit or something like that.
Do you know where the kind of present day market friendly angel kind of came from? Like where that was?
I must confess, I don't have the history of that. I don't know where that changed. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was like 1940s, 1950s kind of marketing, Yeah, but who's the first one? All right, you've seen the angels, but guess what? We got a cute, voluptuous baby butt angel here. You're gonna want to. Actually, you know what? I take that back. I lie. If you look at a lot of Renaissance art, you begin to see the voluptuous baby butt angels. So yeah, I would say it goes back to the late Renaissance. So yeah, so probably, that's where we get the badonkadonk angels.
So I know that I can't remember if it's DJ Soto or a different person, but they perform baptisms in VR.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the kind of the ethics of that?
Yeah.
Especially because I don't really know if it's ethical to perform confessions over a medium that might record your data. That seems pretty.
Yeah. No, I didn't even think about it from that perspective. Yeah, so there's a quasi voluptuous or badonkadonk baby butt angel. Yeah, but anyways, I digress. Yeah, so going back to baptisms, so this is a bit. So DJ and I and there's another pastor who does ministry in VR. His name's Pastor Jason Poling from Yuba City, California, Cornerstone Church in Yuba City, California. And so we all have like a Discord where we talk about stuff. And there's actually some people that come to each of our ministries, right? And so just sharing what's going on in their life and stuff like that. We kind of talk about needs of people, and if there's something going on, just sharing, so we know what's up there, just so we can minister to people, care for people. And so I've talked with them at great length on this issue, and we just have I think it's rooted in, what do you think baptism is, right? The classic kind of evangelical definition of baptism is it's an outward symbol of an inward change of heart. Right. So it's basically like a public, hey guys, I'm a Christian, right? Like that. So that's what they fundamentally see baptism as. And I think if I had that theology, I don't think that I would have so much of an obstacle to a VR baptism, right? Because somebody can proclaim publicly that they're a Christian in VR, sure. But see, from the Lutheran perspective, and I would respectfully say this is the ancient Christian perspective. If you read somebody like Cyril of Jerusalem, right, in the 4th century, baptism is not merely a confession or an outward expression of an inward change of heart. It is actually like an act of God. Like, if you read Paul I don't want to get too hyper theological.
No, you're good.
Paul says in Romans, we've been buried with Christ, right? And he says in Galatians, all who've been baptized into Christ have put on Christ. So so from the Lutheran perspective, as a Lutheran pastor, we see this not just merely as a symbol, but like a divine act of God. And if somebody is only able to get baptized in VR, and if they get baptized in VR, is it really a baptism? I wouldn't necessarily say it's invalid or valid or invalid necessarily, but I would say that puts a lot of doubt into its validity. And the one thing the whole reason we do baptism is so that it can be certain and sure. And so for me, I think the question would always be, well, was that really a baptism or wasn't it? And that's precisely the question we want to avoid, because we want to be able to say, I am baptized, right? I am united to Christ in baptism. So long story short, I would say you can't do like the Lord's Supper or baptism. We'd call these the sacraments. You can't do them in VR would be my take on it. But we can hear, right? We can hear the word, and so that's what the main part of my ministry here in VR Chat is. And I try to, I'm always trying to connect people to their local church, right? I always try to tell people, like, listen, there's things that I can't give you here in VR Chat. And so, I want to encourage you to get connected to a faithful, congregation near you. And we have been able to give some of those, recommend some churches and stuff like that. And that's very exciting.
So how do you think you can appeal to the youth nowadays? Because I know that I think the numbers were from 13 to 27% over the last 10 years have said that they are not religiously affiliated.
Right.
So we're definitely kind of in a sphere of overexposure, I would say. So it can definitely influence the spirituality of people.
Yeah.
So how do you bring those people back who are just so distant from?
I think the church needs to. I think the church needs to listen to the words of the Apostle Peter. It's right there in First Peter. Like everything that I do here or try to do, maybe I succeed, maybe I don't, but everything I try to do in VR chat is expressed perfectly in these words from First Peter. Peter says, "Always be prepared to give a reason for the hope that lies within you, yet do so with gentleness and respect." I mean, that's that. What do they call that? That stuff that's got like all the nutritional content in like one little like, is it like Nutriloaf or Soylent?
Soylent, yeah.
Soylent, yeah. Like, dude, like that's the Soylent of the church in VR chat. Like of what we need to be doing to reaching out or to young people rather, is okay. Like the church, we only know this kind of hyper politicized Christianity that doesn't seem at all gentle and doesn't seem at all respectful. And, I can understand, I think one of the core values of millennials and Gen Z is kindness, right? Like being respectful and kind. And in fact, I think sometimes that can be almost to a fault, right? Because if we're I was talking about this, I don't know if you know Walter H. He's a Twitch streamer, partnered on Twitch. We were just talking about this last night that, like the problem with trying to be too polite is that if you get too polite, you no longer have convictions, right? You're just a head nodder that agrees with whoever's around you because you don't want to offend them in any way. And so you don't have any genuine beliefs of your own. And so I think what we need to do, the Christian church needs to have convictions, but with kindness and gentleness and respect. And people can tell in your voice whether you're coming from a place of love. Like, and I think this is where, like we've had lots of really beautiful conversations with people who have very different worldview than mine. But they can hear, even if they think I'm dead wrong on the issues, that I'm coming because I love them. The whole reason that I'm on here in VR chat is I'm loving them. So I think this is what the church needs to do. I think we need to reread the scriptures, and we need to be gentle and respectful. There's so many people that are like, you got to talk about sin, to which I say, yes, you do. Absolutely. Right. The message of Jesus is completely irrelevant if we don't talk about sin, but let's not talk about everybody else's sin. Let's talk about the one sinner that you have to give an account to God for yourself. And so I think when we point to ourselves instead of someone else, I think people are more likely to lean in and listen. Oh, there's something else I was going to say about this too. Oh darn. Gentleness, respect. Well, the other thing is the word reason. Always be prepared to give a reason for the hope that lies within you. The reason, the Greek word there is apologia. Apo means from, and logia is where we get the English word logic from. So, a loose translation would be always be prepared to give a reason from logic. And I think the whole reason why we see this massive turning to, the nuns, right? No religious preference, is because nobody's ever heard a good reason why we should believe any of this, right? Grandma Schmidt said to them, "You should believe in Jesus because you should believe in Jesus," right? Like there was never any kind of like
they're asking why. They need a why.
The church isn't prepared for that. The church is not prepared to give those answers, and shame on us. Like literally, that's what Peter says. Always be prepared to give a reason for the hope that lies within you. Yet do so with gentleness and respect. And I think so. We get a big F burger on that one, and I think that's why the church is, is declining in many instances.
Yeah.
I mean, I find I talk to Gen Z and millennials all the time, and I find them exceedingly willing to listen. Right? Like, I find them, very ready to, I mean, because most people, even despite a lot of the people talking about nuns, no religious preference, I wouldn't say that most of those nuns are necessarily atheists, right? I think they're open to the conception of a higher power and an afterlife and things like this. They just haven't been given any reason why they should believe in Christianity or any other religious kind of framework.
So, just to touch on another topic, why is it that a lot of pagan holidays share the same kind of merits as Christian holidays? I'm not too knowledgeable about this. I think Two-Stroke knows a bit more about this than I do.
Yeah, but... sure. Like, so you're talking about like Saturnalia and Christmas, yeah?
Yeah.
Or did you, Two-Stroke, did you want to add anything before if you want to preface the question anymore, I'd be happy to.
Like, why do we still celebrate Halloween?
Yeah.
Why do we,
yeah,
Easter? I remember hearing somewhere like Easter was actually like, spring or what, not spring, but like celebrating fertility because of the multiple goddesses among all the pagan god religion.
Yeah, great. And so the kind of the idea is if these are just basically pagan holidays rebranded, there's no sincerity in Christian belief. It's just kind of it's just a rehash, right? And so to which I would say this: we have to remember that, imagine yourself in 1st century Corinth, or 2nd century Rome, or 3rd century Lyon. Okay, there is no 5-day work week. There is no such thing as the weekend, right? Like imagine that for a moment. There is no such thing as the weekend. You work that day, or you do not eat that day. Okay. Now, the one exception to when you have the day off is when the pagan festivals come around.
When you say work, do you mean it like jobs, or just like jobs, staying in your house and like not necessarily in the house, but like farm work?
So yeah, if you're a cobbler, you're making shoes that day. You don't take off Saturday, right? Or if you're a farmer, right? You're working. If you're a dairy farmer, you're milking, right? Like or whatever job it is, you're working every single day, with the exception of usually the pagan festivals. Now I'm painting with broad strokes. I'm sure you can find instances where some people were given more time off, but here's the thing: do we recognize the amount of economic capital required to sustain a 5-day work week? Like, think about how much food production is required, that 2 days a week we can not have to really work that much. Well, for some of us, I mean, obviously everybody doesn't have a 5-day work week, but I mean, think about that. Like, if we were in an agrarian society, you would literally have to work every single day just to have the sustenance, right? But one thing that civilization allows for is, like, people like me, right? Like, I'm a pastor. I don't till any crops, right? And so the only way a society can support somebody like me who gets to go into a room and study is if there is enough other resources that are being produced efficiently enough by other people to support me. Same with like a university professor. So anyways, I'm getting a little far afield. Let me bring it back into the holiday thing. So imagine yourself, you're the Christian church. Okay, they're going to go worship. The pagans are on Saturnalia, are going to go worship Saturn. Okay, now if you want to have a day of devotion to your God, when are you going to, as the Christian community, observe it? You're gonna align your Christian festivals with these pagan festivals just because you have the day off and you're capable of doing it. And this is the funniest thing to me in the world. This is not some sort of co-opting of pagan. Do you have any idea how much pagans and Christians hated each other, especially in, like, for example, the 4th century, early 4th century, late 3rd century? It's like eat your heart out, Republican and Democrat. Like, so the idea of, hey, let's be like the pagans, that would be like, I don't know, like the Democrat Party saying, hey, let's be like the Republicans, or the Republicans are like, hey, let's be like no, they hate. Well, hate is a strong word. I mean, hopefully the Christian church doesn't hate anybody, but they saw themselves as diametrically opposed worldviews. And so the idea that, hey, let's co-opt this, no, right? And so I couldn't disagree stronger with this idea that, these are just merely pagan co-options. And here's the thing, even if it's true that some Christian festivals align with pagan festivals, first of all, I actually do believe Jesus was born on December 25th. I can get into that in a moment if you want, but I would say the fact that these Christian festivals are sometimes celebrated alongside pagan festivals is just an expression of basically triumph. I would, respectfully, I would say is triumph of the Christian church over paganism, and not any kind of pandering to or synthesizing or melding. And so here's the thing is a lot of people like Christmas trees, for example. I always get this, some guy, right? This happens to me so often, bro. Some guy will come up to me and say, all right, you're a pastor. I'm like, yeah, I'm a pastor. He's like, and usually it's this guy, if respectfully, if I can say, they don't seem like the most educated. They've probably watched like a YouTube video or two about, and like, they don't seem the most knowledgeable on the subject. And I say, do you celebrate Christmas? And I'm like, oh boy, here it comes. And so, don't you know that the Christmas tree is pagan? It's about hoping that spring will come and the spring god will bless the fertility. And I'm like, okay, so even if that were true, let's say the Christmas tree goes all the way back. I find that highly spurious. But let's just say that was absolutely true. This was originally a pagan idea. I'm not worshiping the German fertility goddess, right? I'm worshiping Jesus when I do that, right? So it's not even if that were true, its origins. That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm doing. I'm in no way, incorporating the worship of pagan gods in my, every symbol has a meaning relative to the cultural context. Like, take for example the swastika. As many of you know, I'm sure the swastika was a very high, holy, priestly symbol, and still is, I believe, in many parts of India, right? And so the swastika, obviously in our instances, is a abominable symbol of hatred and evil and villainy.
Isn't it flipped though? The
45-degree angle.
It changes in all the
what is 45-degree angle.
Okay. Well, yeah, but you get the general idea. Is that symbols have meanings within communities, right? And so even if a symbol has a meaning in one community, it doesn't mean it has the same symbol in another community. And so in our Christian community, when we have this symbol of the tree, even if you could root it back to paganism, it's not expressing that. So anyway, sorry for the diatribe.
Earlier,
I got a quick note on Christmas here.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the theory that, Christmas, about a guy in a red and white suit who comes and brings you presents, and he flies in a carriage with reindeer? But in that same story, you have a certain type of psychedelic mushroom that is red and white that only grows under pine trees, and reindeer like to eat them. So you got your red and white.
I think Joe Rogan. I think I saw this in Joe Rogan. Yeah. And then you drink the reindeer urine or something like that, and you get psychedelic effect.
I wouldn't do that.
I don't know. I would say, I think this is a classic example of correlation doesn't mean causation. I find some of these it's a theory, and I find some of these claims sus. I
cannot use that word anymore. It's awful.
Oh, is there a moratorium on the use of the word sus?
No, it's just it's just the game among us.
I'm the boomer. I'm trying to be like the hip kids, So I'm trying to keep the lingo. Oh, by the way, deceased. Every time we're talking about lingo, I always use the example of based. You remember you taught me I've told this story. I've told this story like 500 times. God. Anytime I'm talking about like how words have meaning in different instances. And so So I didn't know what the word based was until deceased taught me that.
And I guess that all ties back to the fact that regardless of the origin, the connotation that it's assigned to post-origin is the most important. So even if it was pagan origin, the Christians use it now,
right.
and that's
right.
There shouldn't be any correlation to that.
Right.
Earlier you talked about like working every day to like get food.
Yeah.
But Jesus taught that you shouldn't have to work for your living. Like I just watched a video on this earlier today, but like he brought like the guy to the lake, and he told the guy to fish, and he caught a fish, and in that fish's mouth was a coin. Now that could have just been chance, but if Jesus led you to a damn lake and he said go fish and you got some damn money, you're probably gonna listen to Jesus, right?
Well,
So,
yeah, I don't think that's necessarily like, a call not to work. I mean, I think
well, you know how it's like easier for a rope to go through the needle than
yeah,
like
yeah,
a rich
yeah.
man to enter
Right.
heaven? I
Right.
think he's trying to say like get rid of all materialism and whatnot, and you don't have to work for things only to live.
Yeah, no, I do think there definitely is a call against materialism, I think, in Christianity. But I think like I think we understand work as a means to get what we want. I think, whereas I think in Christianity, like at least in historic Christianity, like work is a way in which I bless my neighbor, right? Like this is how I serve God and serve my neighbor, by bringing my labor to the world. And so I think like that's eminently Christian, right? Like that. And so the reason and so if anybody's listening that has like a job that they hate, the most beautiful person is the dad or mom who works a job they freaking hate,
Yeah, that's what I
just so
wanted
that they
to.
can just so that they can provide for their kids. That's more beautiful. I would say that's a more beautiful godly life than even a pastor. Like if that's the job they have to work to provide for their kids, oh my goodness, that's Jesus, man. That's dying on the cross. Like that's the highest possible love. And consequently, I think this is why God allows that. Like why does God allow Dunder Mifflin?
When
Right?
you
Like
say
it's
allow, what do you mean
yeah.
by that?
Yeah, so
Like
I would say
God
allow,
allow?
like, okay, so God in an instant could put like everybody could work as like whatever they want, right? Like there could be no laborious jobs. Like he could do that in a minute. So I would say he allows laborious jobs. Why do laborious jobs exist? Because God allows it. Does that make sense? Or maybe I can
Wouldn't it be
clarify that
because
more.
he gave us free will though? Like we invented the labor jobs on our
Well, no,
own?
I think laborious jobs are the result of the brokenness of this world going back to sin. And yes, we absolutely have. I would say we have free will to choose which job we do, but sometimes we find ourselves in a situation where, um, my ideal job won't pay the bills, and my ideal job maybe I don't, maybe doing my ideal job would mean I have to go get a degree for 4 years, and that would mean 4 years of my family not having salary, and so maybe I can't do that. Like so I think there's a lot of people that work jobs that they really don't like, and that I think is a great expression of love. Yeah.
Do
But don't you
you
think it leads to like misery though and suffering?
Yeah, but see, this is the thing. No, this is so great. I'm so
Do you
glad you
think we're
bring that
put
up
here
too,
to
sir.
suffer?
No, I don't think we're put here to suffer. I think we're not put here just to be happy.
Yeah, I
Like
totally
thanks be to
agree.
God, that we can have a couple happy days. But this is so important. Like if there's one thing I could convey to anyone listening, it's this: we are not made here for happiness. We're made here for love. And they think, like these two things go together. Like like the Frank Sinatra, love and marriage, love and marriage, like love and happiness, they go together like a horse and carriage. No, they don't. Actually, the loving thing is also often going to mean that you sacrifice your happiness to for the benefit of someone else. And like that is the cross. Like that's Christianity as its core, is that Jesus was willing to suffer because he loved you. And so I would say, and that's so, it's so much more rewarding to love than to be happy. Like you ever find this? Okay, this is a universal thing. Okay, forget the Christian thing for a moment. I think this is something we can universally recognize. You ever find yourself in a situation where you need to go help somebody, and you're like, dude, I don't want to do it. I just want to be on my computer playing Fortnite. Or Valheim or whatever's the popular game nowadays. I wish I could just be on my computer playing video games. But then you go and do it because it's the right thing, and you're like, at the end of the day, you're like, I'm glad I did that. Right? Like, what do you mean you're glad that you did that? You just spent 4 hours moving your buddy out of his apartment. What do you mean you're glad you did that? Well, no, you recognize that there was a higher good in doing that than. And I think like that's what I'm trying to resonate with is that we're made for love. We're not made for happiness. And in fact, it like. If you pursue your own happiness, like this is really a prescription for chaos. And I think a lot of the chaos we see in homes and in society are because everybody's pursuing their own happiness.
But do you see
rather
chaos
than
as
love.
necessarily bad?
Yes, Yes. Yeah. So in the beginning, it says, the world was tohu wavohu. It was formless and void, or another synonym would be chaos. And so I would see God's function is ordering the chaos. Now, Jordan Peterson kind of picks up on this point. He talks about how, like too much order and it becomes like fearless leader in North Korea. Right. And so you can have an authoritarianness, but I think precisely, we were talking about free will a moment ago. I think that's the great expression. The fact that we do have free will is the expression that, God's not a tyrant. He allows us to do as we will. So yeah.
Do you think it's possible to live like Jesus in today's climate?
No, to live like Jesus is impossible.
Do you think we should live like Jesus, though?
Yes. We will not live like Jesus in this life, but that does not mean we don't struggle.
If somebody
and in
wanted
fact, the point
to,
is the struggle. Oh, go ahead.
What's the closest you could do today to live like Jesus?
Oh man. Well, I think we can closely begin to look like Jesus no matter where we are, whether we're a Starbucks barista or a podcast writer, and I think the beauty of looking like Jesus is that it can find instantiations in every one of us. And so I think to look like Jesus is to be loving, to be sacrificial, to be humble, right? I mean, one Christian virtue that's wildly underrated is humility. That's the other side of love. You cannot love without humility. And this is the big problem with the kind of self-absorption that I think all of us have is it's all about me and look how great I am. Look how all the great things that I do. And believe you me, like I'm not exempt from this. Like I'm like, hey dude, check, I've got 1,000 followers on Twitch. like I'm not immune from this either. And it's all about me and showing off. Right. And to the extent that we're enticed by pride, we're abandoning humility. And to that extent that we're abandoning humility, we're also abandoning love. We need to be more humble.
Yeah. Where do you see the future of religion in relation to tech in the next 10 years? Like, do you think that VR will bring people closer to God or stray further?
Yeah. Oh, great question.
Especially like full dive, like the concept of full dive too.
Oh, tell me more about full dive.
So full dive, you know the whole have you seen Black Mirror? Do you know the episode Striking Vipers where they like plug in the little thing on their temple and it just basically like their brain is their dreams are the VR.
Like the Matrix?
Yeah, kind of like the Matrix where they're plugged in. So
plugged in. Got it.
In relation to religion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think here's the big thing that's going to happen. And this is where you see who you'd really be interested to contrast. What my answer to this would be somebody like DJs, right? Because so Pastor DJ is really, believes that this is a complete paradigm shift. We will be in VR, right? We'll be deep dived, as you said, and that's the future. Whereas I see in 20, 30 years, absolutely the deep dive, as you say. But here's going to be the crazy thing. It's going to be wild. It's going to be countercultural. It's going to be so bizarre, but yet so enthralling, is that the church is going to continue to meet in person. The church is going to continue to have physical baptisms, physical receptions of the Lord's Supper, physical instantiations of worship. And it's going to be like vinyl. Right? like it's going to be like vinyl. It's going to be like this harken back. So that's absolutely how I see 30 years from now. And this is where I think, if you have a more sacramental, more respectfully ancient Christian order of worship, right? Like I can't do the full worship in VR. Right. It requires us to be physically present in a church, well, not necessarily in a church. I mean, we could be on a picnic table. I mean, it doesn't really matter so much the building, but it helps to be in a church.
Yeah.
And it requires a physical presence. And I think that those kind of churches are going to continue, and it's going to be more novel. It's going to be more novel.
Can virtual spaces be consecrated? Is that something you think that can be possible?
That's a great question. I haven't. My initial answer would be absolutely not. my initial answer would have been absolutely not. But it would if you'd asked me, a couple months ago, I would have laughed at the idea. I don't know. I'm more. I think it's more of a live question. I still think probably not. And the one thing that it's funny. So we have people sometimes come into the rafters of my VR church, and we've had not just in the rafters, but kind of at our church service, people like ERPing, like yeah, like dude, it's totally
just real quick for those who don't
church,
know, who are tuning in, ERPing is erotic role playing, where they
so basically simulating sex,
simulated sex in VR.
And so I think there's a a depraved sexuality that's right, and the idea of like the buzz of, oh, let's go have sex in a church, like while the church service is going on, like that really upsets me. Like and I'm sure like even when I'm not, like I'm convinced probably even when I'm not there, like people will like enter, because you can in VR chat you can go and you can bring up any map you want, and you and your partner can do whatever you want in your own private spawning of that space, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm sure people have done all sorts of deplorable things, and so that's what makes me think probably not, probably you can't. But I don't know. I think it's a lot. It's an interesting question. I think about it. I do. I don't have an answer for you yet though.
I think once we reach the point of full dive where we will be in a space, like I can reach out and I can touch something and I can feel that. My nerves feel that. It's in my brain. Yeah. That is the point at which, okay, maybe we should treat this more as a physical space, because you have people who are playing God. You have this Sword Art Online type thing where people can actually get hurt in this kind of space. It can affect them. Yeah. Whereas I've always been a major opposer of something like full dive or even augmented reality, because with the VR headset, what I can do is I can take it off, and the second that I take it off, none of this is real. This studio isn't real. You aren't real technically, and it's no longer something I'm seeing. But whenever you have like augmented reality, when I put in some lenses or I plug in, then that's something I can't really escape. Like in augmented reality, I may be seeing things that are not there, like advertisements that weren't put there or that were put there without my knowledge, and I'm just subconsciously taking those things in. And I think at that point we need to start regulating it, especially ethically, and think
right. Because do you see this Owen Wilson TV show that's coming out? I
heard about that.
Basically that's the premise, is that like he can't recognize which is there's this great Moody Blues song. What is real and what is the delusion? You ever listen to that Moody Blues song? Red is green and green is white. Like there's this whole like talking about how like at nighttime and moonlight colors seem different, but who's to say that the moonlight colors aren't the real colors and the daytime colors are the delusion, right? And so like going along those same lines. Here it is. Yep, here it is.
We want to have it on Discord.
Play the audio.
You see all these people outside? They're not real. This is a simulation. You ready?
Oh, so you put it in the nose. And every other one I've seen, you put it like on the temple, or it's somewhere on the brain.
Dr. Isabel Clemens pioneered brain box simulations, ugly, simulated worlds to generate appreciation for the real world.
Now, why am I not remembering any of this?
Don't worry about it.
Drago.
Most people say.
And I think the whole premise. Spoiler alert. Is that okay? So the idea is that she creates ugly worlds for you to appreciate the real world. And I've never seen anything, but I guarantee you this is the premise: is that actually the ugly world is the real world, and the real world is the delusion, right? And so this doctor is gonna try to spend the entire, was it movie or it's a movie?
It's like a movie, yeah.
The doctor's gonna spend the entire movie trying to convince Owen Wilson that the ugly world is the delusion, and her made up world is the real world. That's, I guarantee you, that's the premise.
Do you think that God will attempt to punish people, or will not attempt, but will punish people who try to play God in virtual spaces. Like whenever we start to be able to feel pain and pleasure, and it's basically as real as you can get, but I can still plug out at any point. I'm never physically hurt. If I kill someone in the game, they'll feel that. They'll feel that viscerally, but they won't be killed. They'll just wake up. It's like a dream where, you feel hurt in a dream. Will that be something that we have to like study and think about, or is that already kind of set in stone as to how we interact with that?
Yeah. Great question. So I don't think like, okay, so like if I kill someone in the deep dive world, is that the sin of murder? I would say no. But here's the thing is like, everything has an effect on me. Like everything that I watch, and some things like very minor and some things more major. And so like one game, like, so I'm a big time gamer. Like if you look at my Steam library, I mean, just thousands of hours, right? Different video games. But one game that I cannot play, like despite all of the very cool things you can do in this game, is Grand Theft Auto. Like I used to play Grand Theft Auto when I was younger. I loved GTA 3 as a kid, but I can't bring myself to play that game. It's just too, and even like I find myself in video games like trying to be as moral as I can. Like a couple months ago, I did a Twitch stream of the first sinless run of Skyrim.
I'd like to see that one.
That I could only kill in the terms of self-defense. So I'd like.
Well, wait. Does that apply to magic too? Can you not do magic?
Well, no, I could probably I think I could probably justify that if I needed to go into Bleak Falls Barrow to get the the stone or whatever. If I used a magic spell to incapacitate someone and there were no long-term effects, I think you could probably justify.
Did you use shouts?
Yes, yeah. Usually the ethereal one, right, where you just become invincible. That's So, yeah, like even like it's funny. Like I try to be like I'm not always perfect in this. And but I try to be moral even in video games. And so if there's like and it's funny, I kind of twist them. Sometimes I like, twist the storyline in my own head so that it, but I try to be moral even in video games. And so I think because I think there is a I think there can be an effect that if you're like, yeah, dude, run him over, bro, just splatter his guts on the sidewalk. Like I think.
Hello?
Oh, we have an audio cut out?
I crashed in
game. The whole game just crashed, dude.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, like everyone just disappeared. I'm the only one here at the table.
Uh-oh.
World crashed.
Well, that's not good.
At least we made it over the hour mark.
Yeah. What can go wrong will go wrong. Murphy's Law, right? Oh,
I wonder
you there,
if we're
Pastor?
getting crashed though. I'm here. You can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, just audio.
Well, just to wrap this up, then I just want to ask, what's on your bucket list?
Oh, what's on my bucket list? That's a great question. I just want to. Weird. Oh, that was just Discord closing out there. I would say my bucket list. Ooh, you should have let me prep this one so I'd have something like beautiful and philosophical.
Profound.
Every other guest that you have is going to know that this is the final question. But yeah, I guess I would say my bucket list. I mean, I just hope. I would say that the meaning of life is to dwell with God, and so that's what I hope to do.
All right. Well, I've appreciated having you on as the first guest.
Likewise,
I think this was a great first episode, despite some of the kinks. I know you guys can't see me right now because our producer Dreams got crashed. Kind of just the bane of being in a virtual space, but that's what COVID can do to you sometimes.
That's right. That's right.
But it was a pleasure having you on. I hope to have you back sometime. Hopefully as a guest host. We'll see.
Love it. I love it. Sounds good.
So thank you all for watching, and we will see you in the next one.